emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 2+ decades of my life. I got to Lompoc around August of 2001, but I didn't get on the yard until late September. Because when I got to Lompoc, they put me in the SHU because of my record, mainly because of my assault on staff. So they had me wait for a captain's review. Then I end up staying in the SHU for 30 days. Then they finally let me out. When I got out, after a few months I was there, I went and signed up for the dental lab. It's VT Dental. And the dental lab, they teach you skills that you can come home and make a living. And, they make all the dentures for all the other prisoners around the system. They make caps and all sorts of different stuff, right? I didn't last too long over there because I was bumping heads with one of this CO, this Filipino CO. A lot of times it's always your own. And I say your own because Filipinos are considered Asian/Islanders. And he looked up my record and he seen that I had the assault on staff. And he was somebody that thought he was tough, right? I guess he might have known like some martial arts or something. So he's always, saying a little slick shit. And we were bumping heads in there. So I ended up quitting the dental lab because I didn't want to get another assault on the staff because, me, I don't know how to fight. Meaning like I wasn't trained. I didn't grow up taking karate or kickboxing or any type of mixed martial arts or anything like that. The stuff I learned was just through getting into fights, and then I run across people that knew what they were doing. I trained with them here and there along the way. But, I fought a lot of people that claimed to know martial arts, that claimed to know how to box and all this stuff. And I whooped them, you know what I mean? Because like when I fight, I'm not fighting to exchange punches. I have no technique. I have no skills. My only agenda is to survive. And that's by any means. That means if I got to poke you in the eyes, punch you in the nuts, or whatever else I got to do to win that altercation, I'm going to find a way to win. And that's always been my mentality, especially being incarcerated. You have to understand that anytime you get into a confrontation, you're literally fighting for your life. Because I've seen dudes that went up there, thought they got some hands or whatever, and get knocked out. And once they get knocked out, you're defenseless. And now dude's just dancing on your head. And it doesn't take much pressure to stomp on your head or stomp on your neck to X you out. So for me, seeing that enough times, I'm always fearful and conscious not to get knocked out. So, and even though I don't know how to fight, I just keep my limbs moving. I keep my hands going, I keep my legs going, and my elbows and whatever else, right? But that's not the story that I'm sharing with you today. The story I'm sharing with you today is when I got into the dental lab, I hooked up with a dude named Texas Danny. I hooked up with him through the homie Rudy from Texas MA. And he was the dope man on the compound. So through that relationship, I was able to hustle. And through the course of my time hustling, I was able to, get to know all the players that was on the compound. Because I'm in a unique space. Like I always tell you, being Asian, being Cambodian, benefited me in a way that I don't fall into the categories of the hatred, the racist hatred between the blacks, the whites, and the Mexicans. So I was able to make friends with blacks, make friends with white, make friends with Mexicans, and everybody else in between. And not being from a prison gang, I'm not confined in that box. I have no restriction. I'm my own man. And I was able to make rapport and relationship with people from all walks of life. So that being said, in 2004, we all got shipped off to Victorville. And most of the people that was in Victorville, we all came from Lompoc. They just brought the bus and shipped us all out to Lompoc. So one day, I'm sitting in the cell, smoking, me and my homeboy, and I get a knock on my cell. And so I open it up, because I have when I'm smoking, I put the cover on my window or the towel over my door. And on the other side of the door was the homie Puru. Um, I don't even know exactly what blood gang he's from, but he is one like the OGs of the Bloods. But being his name was Puru, I'm thinking he's from Pyru, right? Like we never got into the conversation about what hood he was from, but I know he was from LA and he ran with the Bloods, right? But he was one of the players on the compound. So I opened the door. He comes in. He's like, "Hey man, can I holler at you?" I was like, "Yeah, have a seat." So he pulls out a little baggie and he shows me. He's like, "Man, what's up? What do you think?" And I look at him and I'm like, "What is that?" He tell me it's supposed to be a gram of tar. And I look and I was like, "Pooh, that can't pass for a gram." He goes, "What?" Because in Lompoc we were buying grams for $250. But if you send $1,000, you can get 5. So if you spend 1,000, you can get a gram for 200. But everything was plentiful in Lompoc. I don't care what it was that you wanted, whether it's meth, heroin, um, weed, or whatever. It was there, man. But when we got to Victorville, everything's not established yet. So the only route to get it was through the visiting room. So when dudes that was hustling went out there to go get it, when they brought it back, the price went up. It was like it went up to 300 at first, and by the time me and Pooh had this conversation, it was at 350. And by the time I left Victorville, it was at 500 for a G. And I have no idea what the price is now. Every yard is different depending on the access they have to it. So at this time, it was 350. So Pooh pulls out this baggie, and he shows me, and he's asking me like, you think people will pay 350 for it? And I'm telling Pooh, I'm like, hey, yeah, I wouldn't put out that out there like that for as a gram, you know. So Pooh pulls out this baggie and he shows me, he's like, man, what's up, man? What do you think you can get for this? And I ask him, I'm like, well, what does that go for? He's like, oh, it's a gram. And I looked at the homie, I'm like, I wouldn't put that out there for a gram. He's like, why? What's up? What's wrong with it? I said, it's really small. You know what I mean? Because the people that I deal with, they got money and they're gonna spend the money, but they trust me to come with them with the right type of business. So he's like, well, why don't you come to my cell? So I roll out. We walk down the tier. We're on the second floor. I think in Victorville, I was living in 2A and 204 or 224. So no, 204, one of those. It had a 2 and a 4, right? So we go down the tier, and Pubru, he only lived like 6 or 7 cells down from me. So we go into his cell. He closed the door, put the cover over the window, and he digs in his pocket, and he pull out a ball like this. And he puts it on the table. He's like, "What's up?" I was like, "What you want me to do with that?" He's like, "Man, cut it up." So I looked at it and I asked him what it was. He says a zip. Now, you have to understand a zip is 28 grams, but a zip of tar, for some reason, is 25 grams. I don't know how they do the math or whatever, but that's the consensus as far as on the streets or whatever. When you're buying a gram of tar, an ounce comes in at 25 grams, right? So he breaks it down. He gets a razor out of his box for me, and I sit on the table and start chopping it up. You know, after I was done, I end up chopping up 33 pieces. Yeah, it's still not a street gram. You're never gonna get a street gram in there. Like people take 2 grams, like two grams on the scale, and they break it into 3 pieces and sell it for 3 prison grams. But I've been involved in the business long enough that I can pretty much eyeball what it looks like that I've been purchasing or that I've helped other people move. And this is what was going on in the yard. So I cut up 33 pieces out of the out of that little ball he gave me. And afterward, he was like, "Man, what do you want for it?" You know, me, I like to smoke. I really don't mess with that stuff unless I use it to get some stuff in my locker, or I use it to trade for the stuff that I like, which is, weed and drink. But I know he got the other, I know he got some weed too. So I tell him, "Man, just let me get something to smoke." Cause for me, when somebody I fuck with come and ask me to do them a favor, and it didn't take me nothing but like 20 minutes, I'm not gonna charge them. I could have easily went, "Man, let me get one of those pieces," and probably would have made myself $1,000 off of it or whatever. But I don't ever think like that. You know what I mean? For me, I fuck with you. You came over, you asked me for my assistant, whatever I can do to help you, I do. And I think that always benefited me operating that way because, when you put a price on your service, let's say I charge you whatever, $100, couple, or one of those pieces. One of those pieces is 350. Nobody's gonna pay me 350 to freaking do something like that. But if I set a price, that's all I get is whatever I set the price. Let's just say, give me 20 books, 25 books. We deal in stamps. That would be $100, right? So that would be that, and that would be a business transaction. But the way I operate is that if I fuck with you, you need me to help you with something, I'm gonna help you. And I never set a price on myself. I never ask anything for my service. And it's benefited me in a way where down the road they could come back and be like, "Hey man, I got this," and be thrown. And like I got dudes that every time they hit the yard, they'll call me over to the unit. "Hey man, come through the unit." Like, "What's up?" Huh? And they'll drop me a bundle, you know. And you know, I didn't sell drugs out here when I was on the streets. I went to prison for robberies and assault on staff. And at the time that I was in prison, all my homies are all locked up. There was like 15 of us that got picked up in the indictment. Some of them had state cases, and 2 of us had the Fed case. Everybody all went to the state joint, but everybody's locked up. And my young homies, they weren't. They're just young. They're not established as far as financially or anything like that. So I had to fend for myself, and I didn't call home and ask my family for any money because, for me is I did what I did, and I got myself locked up, and I don't want it to be a more of a burden on my family to have to take care of me. So I had to hustle and find my way to doing what I needed to do. And I've been fortunate enough through the course of my time that I've always had plenty. I've always had my locker full. I always had, I got high every day. I smoked and drank and whatever else every day. But the reason I was able to do that is because the way I've carried myself and people around me respected me and knew that, yeah, whatever Mason said he's going to do, he's going to fulfill it. Because when I shake somebody's hand, I know exactly what I can and can't do. It's like the viewers that you're watching, you know exactly what you can and cannot do. You know your resources. So when you open your mouth, you already know if that's a lie or not. You know, and me having to do 2+ decades, I know that my reputation is everything. My reputation is what's going to carry me through the rest of my bid. When I'm broke, when I don't got nothing, I can go to somebody and be like, hey, man, let me get on my feet. Let me get this. I can do this. I can do that and hit you back whenever. It could be 2 weeks from now, a month from now, or whatever. And I built a reputation that always kept my word, that I always fulfill my obligation. So when the time comes, nobody ever hesitate to give me what I need because I don't have money. I don't have people on the streets at this time to run around and send money here or Western Union this or any of that. So the only thing that I can do is hustle off the yard, get the money off the yard, and pay them however I need to pay them. And sometimes it takes a month, sometimes it takes 2 months. But when I grab something from somebody, I know exactly when I'm able to flip it, when I'm able to pay them. And I always give them or give myself about a week or two grace period just in case something goes wrong, you know? So at any time, at this point in my life, when I was in Victorville, I pretty much knew everybody, blacks, Mexicans, whites, whatever. And when somebody touched down, I don't have the money on deck. I can go to them, be like, hey, let me hold some for a few weeks. And I never had an issue getting anything that I ever needed. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for all them dudes out there that always helped me to get on my feet or help me hustle and help me make my time a lot easier, especially financially. You know, yeah, you get 3 meals in a bed, but that's it. Everything else you want some sweats, you want some shorts, you want some headphones, you want a radio, you want some food outside of what they're feeding you in the kitchen. You better have some money. And if you ain't got money, you better hustle. You know what I mean? So when I was in Victorville, I ran a poker game. I dip and dab in playing bookie during football season. I was always into something because, for one, being into all those different things helped my mind stay sharp, helped me focus on things I need to do throughout the day. For one, to make my time pass, and two, to be able to feed myself. So, my reputation in Victorville was already established. So that's why Pooh came over and hollered at me. He's like, man, you know who fucks with this? You know who's who? I said, yeah, what you trying to do? Like, well, I'm trying to get rid of this, get rid of that. But for me, I don't really like playing the middleman because sometimes playing the middleman, things get lost in translation. And especially when you're dealing with a lot of money, I just want to be able to just put A and B together and be out the way. I don't want nothing for it. I'm not trying to get a finder's fee or anything like that. And again, I think the way that I operated, people around me that fuck with me appreciated that. So I was always the dude that when somebody touched down with something, they always came to me and were like, hey man, I got this. Man, who fucks with this or fucks with that? And I'm like, yeah, I know a few people. So, but I don't just bring people to introduce somebody. I always ask their permission first. So I told Pooh, I was like, yeah, I know a few people. He's like, yeah, you can just hustle it, this and that, come pick up. I was like, Pooh, I'm I'm not trying to be the middleman. You got your own blood homies that you can send out and run around and do things for you. But what I would do, I'll introduce you to the people that I know, if that's cool with you. And he already know that I'm not going to be fucking with no lames. And that these people that I've been dealing with them and I have a history and I pretty much, to the best of my ability, has like, did my background check on them, you know. But most of the people that got money to move around, they're players on the compound. So he's like, yeah. So through the course of the next few days, I went out there, hit up my dudes that I know that I dealt with, and plugged them in with Puru. And I just introduced them. They shook hands and they did whatever they did. You know, a week later, Pooh came to me and he's like, man, I got rid of all that. I was like, yeah. It's like, hey, good looking out. It's like, man, what can I do for you? I was like, man, you don't owe me nothing. He goes, oh, no, but you helped me out. I was like, Pooh, you don't owe me nothing. You know what I mean? I'm glad I can help you out. All I ask is that when you do touchdown, if I got money to hustle, or if I want to get a hustle, that you let me get access to it. He's like, man, whatever you need, you got it, right? And during this time, me and Pooh got kind of cool, you know. When him and his homies are making a nacho bowl or whatever, I got to knock on my door and like, hey man, you got your bowl? I was like, yeah. I give him my bowl, and 10 minutes later, it's filled up with a nacho bowl. I share this story with you. It's just to give you a glimpse of my day-to-day routine. You know, some people have a hard time in the penitentiary, and some people have an easier time. But it don't have anything to do with how big you are or how bad you are. Everything in the penitentiary has to do with respect. You know, that's it. If you conduct yourself in a way that people respect you, or that you're deserving of people's respect, they're gonna give it to you. You know, but but for someone to respect you, they gotta know you're a man. They gotta know that you're not on no goofy shit, and when goofy shit comes your way, you're gonna deal with it. Through the course of my bid, I don't want to say 100% because every now and then, every now and then, things might not go the way they go. But for the most part, I've always kept my word with the people I've dealt with, and during that time, like I didn't ask Pooh for anything, but he fronted me one of those pieces. I went out and chopped them up, and all I did was trade them in for weed. I'd be out there on the yard, and while the homie Demon from Chiquez out here in Utah, he on the move, he'll come over like, man, what's up? It's like, what you got? We all know everybody that's moving around. We all know each other. He's like, man, I got some sticks, and that's a little weed. And the weed, man, you sprinkle it. A toothpick, the size of a toothpick, that's what it is, but even small, because the toothpick is thick. This is just like if you lined up like salt pieces, line them in a row with little pieces all the way to make about a 2 inch little freaking rolly. That's about how much weed is in there, right? But the weed they get was good, and also your system is so clean, like you don't need to smoke no blunt or nothing. You get high off that shit. So when I got the piece from Puru, I just chopped it up and made like 100 papers, 103 book papers. And I go out there, I take out 10 or 15 of them at a time to go outside, just have them in my pocket just to see what I can come up with. And the homie Demon came through and he was like, man, what you doing? I was like, shit, I got some papers. What you got? He goes, I got some weed. I was like, shit, you want to swap? And that's what I did for most of my stuff. Instead of dealing with stamps, I just traded for weed. I traded for moonshine or some wine or whatever, and just kept my day moving, man. But I don't know if Puru ever made it home, but if you did, homie, I send my love and respect, man. I hope you're good. Until next time, welcome to the USP.